Ron.
I'd like to welcome everyone this evening to the Planning and Zoning and Board of Adjustment meetings. Our first order of business will be our Board of Adjustment agenda, and our first order of business will be a public hearing for the 610 East Boonslick sign variance. Mr. Ham, you want to bring us up to speed?
Good evening, everyone. First thing we have is a sign variance request, BAR-33, for the property located at 610 East Boonslick. Property is zone C2, general commercial, and the variance is to allow a 164.21 square foot sign to be installed where a maximum of 150 square foot signs are permitted by city code. I'd like to ask to make part of the public hearing record my planning and zoning report, the public hearing notices, and the municipal code by reference.
Thank you. Is there anyone here tonight to speak on behalf of this public hearing? Step to the podium and state your name, sir.
Good evening, folks. My name is Pat Blue from Hannibal, Missouri, and we are the sign installation and sign sellers of Orslyn Farm and Home Signs for their entire operation. And we travel all the states that they market in, and we plan to take down what's existing, being 170 feet long by 3 feet tall, which we did get a variance for back in 1989, and then you only allowed 45 square feet, and so a variance was obviously needed. And obviously, it was a consideration that the city at that point allowed us to have. And we're going to put up a 161 plus square foot sign in lieu of that sign.
Thank you, sir. You just kind of stay there in the front, and so we
Sure.
ask questions if we need some here shortly. Anyone else here to speak on behalf of this or against this? Hearing none, we'll close our public hearing for the Board of Adjustment and open it up to the regular Board of Adjustment meeting. The first order of business will be the minutes from our February 6th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the February 6th meeting as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Costello to accept the minutes as presented, second by Mrs. Scott. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Barton?
Yes?
Mr. Deitch?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Schwab?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0, and our only order of business on tonight's agenda will be the sign variance for the 610 East Boonslick.
Can you tell me, is the sign that you're proposing to put in, is that a kind of a standard manufactured sign that Orslyn
That is
uses?
a sign that Orslyn uses through their system, not entirely. We
Can you step to the
We'll
podium?
need you for microphone, sir.
So our public, it's on TV, the public can hear you.
Orslyn uses two different types of signs. They use, this sign is, you have pictures of in front of you, and they also use a channel letter LED illuminated sign. And these are signs that are the two signs they use through their entire system.
So in order to replace the sign that you've got, if you weren't going to use one of those two standard signs, if you had to make something that fit the existing square footage requirement, it would have to be custom fabricated?
It'd have to be fabricated, yes, sir. And quite frankly, I didn't even consider 164 square feet being an issue when we went through the process with Orslyn. And I came down and I applied for a permit and a contractor's license, and Jack told me we had a problem. And so that's the reason we're here tonight.
And they currently have a variance, correct, for a larger sign?
Much larger.
So does the variance go with the sign?
I could not find any record of the variance, but I
do have
it may have
the original.
been destroyed, but I could not find any record of it.
There was back in,
I think you said 1989?
yeah, there was a lady by the name of Anita, possibly. And I submitted drawings to her with that being the application.
So I think he might have got a permit approval, not technically a variance, because I could not find any record of a variance.
This was an application for a sign variance.
Okay. If there were a variance, let me restate the question. If there were a variance, would that variance go with the property or with the sign? Does that, if the same company owns it and they want to put up a different sign of the same size, does that variance allow you to do that?
The variance would not have a precedential effect, except for if there were prior findings regarding our findings under section 405.330, which is pretty similar. Those would be something you could consider, because that land, you would assume that special conditions of the land or the structure would not have changed since 1989. So the problem is we don't have a record of that, so I don't know how you could review those. But yeah, I mean, there would be no precedent that they got a variance last time, therefore they're entitled to one now. However, the findings of that prior hearing would be relevant, or could be presented as supporting evidence for their variance now.
And the sign he's replacing it with is considerably smaller. Didn't you say
Yes,
the one there's
we're
like
talking
500 square foot?
500 square feet opposed to 164, or I'll tell you exactly, guys, I've got it here.
And me and Melody even looked through minutes in that time frame around 1989. So I can't really explain why it don't exist.
510 square feet is what's up there now.
But he did have a sign permit.
There was a permit issued, yes.
Okay.
And it looks like this particular building does not really have a facade per se, it's just got this space over the windows. Would that be accurate?
There is a projecting awning off the front of the building, and the sign that's existing now is above that awning.
And that's where it is right now?
Yes,
and
sir, and
that's-
we'll be putting the new sign back on, over the main entrance to the store, above that awning as well.
Is there two signs going in or just one?
Well, it's a two-piece sign. One sign says Orslin, the second sign says Farm and Home. So it becomes one when you install it.
Now, separately, how big is each piece?
Okay, there's a finished product.
But
Okay.
separately,
Separately, we have,
It says here.
yeah, it's in there.
I was trying to figure out how to do that too.
Bear with me a minute.
And here's where.
Well, the Orson one says about 21 feet.
The Orslin sign is 21 feet, 3 inches long. The Farm and Home section is 18 feet, 7 inches long. And they tuck into each other, giving an overall length of 36 feet, 6 inches. I'm sorry, yes, no, 38 feet, 7 and 5/30 seconds.
but the way, I guess my question for you too would be, the way the building is, the way that the building's built, and based on the prior sign, you guys really only have that top portion to put, what, is that considered a wall sign, Jack? That top portion to put any type of signage or emblem, there's not like a blank area or an unused area on the actual building itself, right?
No, sir. No, we'll be taking all that other signage down.
Right, but I'm saying like, you really only have that gap, there's no
Yes, sir, that's
other
it.
space.
As far as the front of the building is concerned.
The way the building, the structure is.
Right.
And that may be one of the reasons why they gave that last time, is because you only have this real, unique to that is that thin strip on top.
Well, that sign that's up there is 3 foot tall, if you're looking at a picture of the existing sign.
This is very interesting because you're going from something bigger to something smaller. It's still outside the norm by a little,
14 square feet, yeah.
but you're actually will be more conforming than you were before.
It's less of a variance, but I think, you have this first A, which is pretty ambiguous under the variance requirements. Special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land structure or building involved and which are not applicable to other land structures or building in the same district. I think you can take that in as a factor, going from the bigger variance sign to the smaller one, that this is actually, that's a special circumstance. They had a prior variance, they had a prior larger sign. I think you can take into account that the building itself really only has that area, that 3-foot area for the wall sign, which, other buildings, if they're more vertical, it's a pretty short building. If they're more vertical, it's could have something, over the top of it. This is only this area. Literal interpretation of provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of the chapter. The ability to have a wall sign is a wall sign that is shorter than 3 feet, really a good wall sign. They don't result, the special conditions and circumstances do not result in from the actions of the applicant. You do have this prior sign and the prior variance, which is partially the result, but also the city put them in a position where they had the larger and the variance before. It'll not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this chapter to the owners of other land structures or buildings in the same district. And, this is just probably their only ability to have a wall sign, so is it really a special, privilege? It's only 14 square feet over. And no non-conforming use of neighboring land structures or buildings in the same district, and no permitted uses of land structures or buildings in the other district shall be considered grounds for the issuance of a variance. They're not using anything as precedential. So I think you can make an argument if you take and you assume the special circumstances are, there was you assume, and the applicant's benefit, that there was a finding that a variance was applicable, and then you take that and you say, well, that does create special circumstances, and the nature of the building is very short and a very small amount of space for a wall sign because most of it's glass window frontage. I think that definitely could be something that you guys would be supported in a finding.
Yeah, just the fact that it's big and going to smaller
Well, I think
makes
it
it
does.
definitely unique.
Well, it does create special circumstances. I would agree with you there.
Mhm.
I think the prior finding of a variance, the building has not, I assume, has not changed since 1989, right?
The building itself,
Yes.
as far as I know, nothing.
Yeah.
Maybe that awning's been added. I don't know that I have pictures of 89.
I think the awning was reconstructed, but it's essentially the same.
It was there, it was
Yeah, there was
present when
one
we
there,
put,
but
it was present when we
posts
put the
had
sign.
been run into, and so I think it was all removed and reconstructed to serve the same purpose.
I don't have any old photos of that
Let's try to
store.
remember what was there when Vanco
Yeah.
Well, do.
Well, I would make a motion to approve the variance as submitted.
and I would second that motion.
Do we need to state any reasons for it, or?
I would just ask that you guys make the findings that are outlined in the ordinance, just in an affirmative yes, present, or no, not present. And in whatever order you guys want to do it, just so those findings are present in the record. I mean, maybe what you guys could do is approve it, or vote to approve it first, and then if, depending on the vote, I can just read them out, and then you guys can just say yes or no on them.
Okay. So we'll take, we have a motion by Mrs. Scott, second by Mr. Deitch, to approve the sign variance as submitted on the application, and we'll go affirmative or negative on special, in the 5 things that go with this after the roll call vote. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote?
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Schwab?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Deitch?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. And Mr. Graville, if you'd like to read those off.
So it was a unanimous vote, so if you guys could just, in the affirmative, note that you guys found that, is there a special condition and circumstance exists which are peculiar to the land structure or building involved and which are not applicable to other land structures or buildings in the same district?
Yes.
Literal interpretation of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this chapter.
Yes.
Yes.
Granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this chapter to owners of other land structures or buildings in the same district.
Yes.
Correct.
No non-conforming use of neighboring land, structures, or buildings in the same district, and no permitted use of land, structures, or buildings in other districts shall be considered grounds for the issuance of a variance.
Yes.
Yes.
And did you skip C on purpose, or did I not hear it?
I don't know, I can barely hear out of my left ear, so let me try that again. Did I skip C?
Yes.
All right, let me read C again, or for the first time. I don't think C was in my paperwork.
Okay.
No, it's here. It's my bad, I apologize. The special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
You finished with me?
Yep.
Thank you, folks. Appreciate your help tonight.
You're welcome, sir.
Permits.
At this time, we'll
I can process them.
close the meeting for the Board of Adjustments
We just send them up.
and open up our regular planning and zoning meeting for this evening.
When they're ready.
And our first order of business will be our public hearings.
Okay.
And our first public hearing will be the Step Up program that's coming in front of us.
And I'll be abstaining from that discussion. So I'll stay here for the public hearings.
Good evening again. This is a site plan approval request for Step Up TLP LLC. Property is located at 101, 103, 105 Morgan Trails Court. Property is zoned R3, high-density residential. On April the 3rd, 2014, a request was filed for site plan approval for a transitional living facility. For Appendix A, 1 residential, B group living, 5 transitional living. A conditional use permit is required. This site plan approval request has been submitted by the applicant along with the conditional use permit. CUP 38 approval request as required per section 405.340 C8. And I'd like to make part of the public hearing record the municipal code by reference, my planning and zoning report, and the public hearing notices.
Thank you. Does anyone speak on that tonight for the public hearing?
Hi there. I'm Kathy Pritchett, owner of Step Up Transition Living Program, and I just want to say I'm here. I think I have some things to talk about under the next part of it, but
Okay.
just wanted to say I was here.
Thank you very much. Anyone else speak in favor or against the public hearing tonight? If not, we'll close that public hearing and open up the next public hearing, which is the Step Up TLP conditional use permit.
Once again, I'd like to ask to make part of the public hearing record the municipal code by reference, public hearing notices, and my planning and zoning report. This is a conditional use approval permit for Step Up TLP LLC located at 101, 103, 105 Morgan Trails Court. Property is zoned R3, high-density residential. On April 3rd, 2014, a request was filed for a conditional use permit approval for a traditional living facility. Per Appendix A, 1 residential, B group living, 5 transitional living. A conditional use permit is required. This conditional use permit Approval request has been submitted by the applicant along with the site plan, SP 84 approval request as required per section 405.340C8.
Thank you, Mr. Aaron. And again, Ms. Pritchard, you just want to make sure that you're here. You're just speaking on behalf of that as well tonight?
Yes.
Anyone else like to speak on behalf or against that? Public hearing. Hearing none, we'll close our public hearings for this evening and open up our regular Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for May the 1st, 2014. Our first order of business will be the minutes from the April 3rd meeting.
I'll make motion to approve the minutes from the April 3rd meeting as submitted.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Costello, second by Mr. Dickey to approve the minutes as submitted. Any questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Schoenfeld?
Yes.
Mr. Schwab?
Yes.
Mr. Kohler?
Abstain.
Mr. Dickey?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Deach?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes. Motion passes 7-0 with one abstention. Next order of business will be a discussion of special events permits with the Warren County Fair Board.
Yes, on April the 3rd, 2014, during the Planning and Zoning meeting, Planning and Zoning Commissioner Dickey gave a presentation regarding the special event permit procedures, and during that presentation, it was requested, or an invitation was sent out to the Warren County Fair Board if they could join in a little further discussion regarding the procedure and plan preparation. And Mr. Owenby's here tonight to speak with the commission.
And I'd like to state that on really the next three items on the agenda that I will be abstaining and leaving the dais as I've got a relationship with the requesting organization.
Mr. Drumby, you'll come to the podium.
Mr. Hannah said there were some questions about the permit process. Just wanted us to be present for about a site plan map, I think is what it was.
I think that was one of Mr. Dickey's main concerns, if we can improve the plans that are submitted.
Yes, in my opinion, we've got a problem with the process of the special event process. When an applicant comes here and we ask them questions about different things, they don't have the answers to them. And let's reference the mud bog. When we got a 1,000-foot aerial view of it, which to me is, we need a flat drawing of it. So we get some dimensions on it and that. And they don't have any idea where the mud bog's going, how big it is, how deep it is, how far it is from the, you know where I'm coming from. Only you guys know this, because
Well,
you're the ones gonna dig it, right?
No. On that particular event, we just rented the facility to them for that.
Yeah.
You know, so that's really not our layout where they're gonna put the mud pit, what they're gonna do. They have that basic area where to put it at, but it's up to them, you know,
Yeah.
where to put it. So I couldn't lay out a plan for them, because that may not be exactly where they wanted it. You know, now, as when we fill out our permits, we pretty well know it's gonna be in the same spot all the time.
Yeah.
So for me to fill it out for them, I mean, you could tell them where you wanted it, but it's kind of up to them to build it. And the school's the only one I think we offer the mud vault to that's outside the fair.
Yeah.
You know,
Do they hire somebody to dig it? How does it get dug?
they've got their own volunteers, I guess, their own people helping do that.
Yeah.
I don't know who exactly is doing it for them. I think Tim Banksy maybe gonna donate some equipment time, but you'd have to talk to Miss, I think Linda Scott, I think is doing.
Yeah.
But, you know, she would have to answer that question for you as far as who's actually gonna dig it or build a pit on top of the ground.
Right. But with a 1,000-foot aerial view of this, and you get a big black marker marking all over it, you can't tell anything about this. And,
Right.
And we are tasked with the duty of making sure this is a safe event
Oh, yeah.
and for the town, and I can't determine that from the drawings I'm getting.
I understand.
And I checked with the Lewis and Bade. They don't have a flat drawing at all of the fairgrounds.
Right.
They said it's been put together parts at a time, and they don't have a flat drawing.
Right.
We need a flat drawing from people so we can determine what these things are.
Would a larger aerial view of it where you could use, reference points on, like, let's say from the grandstand to the track where it was more defined, would something like that work?
Well, it would help. I'd prefer to have an all-flat drawing, but
Right.
the aerial view, when they get marking all over that aerial view, you can't read it.
On that smaller map, I think that Lewis and Beatty had that, I could see where that'd be a problem.
Yeah,
Right. That's why I asked Jack if a bigger, I don't know if it had to be a 2 foot by 3 foot, to get, they're working in one small area.
Yeah.
A 140 foot wide track, 350 foot long, they've got a picture of 45 acres.
Yeah.
So I can understand where it'd be.
well, and I was thinking on the mud bog, if they make up a drawing on this size paper,
Right.
just to the mud bog area and where the stands are, dimensions to that, you could still look at the aerial view, but you'd have this to give you the dimensions for
No, that's-
safety and this and that. But
that's
we don't have
understandable.
that, and the applicants don't know this. I can tell you that they don't know this. I don't
Right.
know why, but they don't know it.
Well, I don't know if we've ever been put where exactly, just to
Yeah.
draw a flat drawing for that specific area, but I think it can be arranged, taken care of, for future use.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I don't see it.
Could you guys lay out where the mud bog's gonna go?
For our reasons, yeah, I think we can.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna be in the same spot all the
Yeah.
time. And there really should be no difference,
Yeah.
whether it's us or somebody else.
And if you lay it out just on a piece of paper this size, you don't have to put the whole fairgrounds in.
Right. Just,
Because that's what the event is gonna be right there.
right.
You can still have an aerial view and put some other stuff on it, that shows the restrooms and this and that in conjunction with that,
Oh,
until we ever come up with a flat drawing for the whole fairgrounds.
I think it can be taken care of.
Good, good.
Shouldn't be a problem. Was that the only question as far as the process that your concerns were?
That was basically mine, yeah.
All right. Easy enough. I think that can be fixed. So,
Okay.
And I would like to state on the record, I'm very grateful that the Fair Board's been turning things in well in advance, trying to make sure going through the process as smoothly as possible, and I appreciate their help.
Thank you very much.
We have slimmed this down to a short period of time, and when the applicant brings this in, if they don't have all this information, then they have to go back and get it. Now we're cutting them down what is really close.
oh, understandable.
But make them a drawing, you can sell it to the applicant.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Olney.
Bradshaw to do the drawing.
Anybody else? Next order of business will be the demo derby.
This is a special event permit application, SCP 8, for a demo derby, May the 31st, 2014, and October 25th, 2014, out at the Warren County Fairgrounds. City staff, including myself, Public Works Director and Chief of Police, have reviewed the application for SCP 8, and the proposed activities included in SCP 8 should not have any negative effects on the safety and general welfare of the public and our surrounding residential neighborhoods.
And is this being put on by the Fair Board?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And they do that as part of the fair, so they've got, this isn't something they've never done before.
During the week of the fair, the special event permit is not required. Outside of the week of the fair, they need to turn it in.
Okay.
Ow.
Go ahead.
Go-
You go right ahead.
Well, I was going to make a motion.
I was gonna make one too, you just go.
I make, well, I'll go ahead and make a
I'm
motion
just
that
gonna
we
scoot
approve
back
the special event permit application for the demo derby on May 31st, 2014, and October 25th of 2014.
I'll second it.
We have a
Okay.
motion by Mr. Kohler, second by Mrs. Scott, to approve the special events permit as submitted. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Schwab?
Yes.
Mr. Kohler?
Yes.
Mr. Dickey?
Yes.
Mr. Costello abstained. Mr. Deitch?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Schoenfeld?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 with one abstention. Next order of business will be another special events permit, Pride in Your Ride Truck Show.
This is a special event permit application, SEP number 9, for a Pride in Your Ride truck show for August 26, 2014, to be held at the Warren County Fairgrounds. Same thing, as city staff, including myself, Public Works Director and Chief of Police, have reviewed the application for SEP number 9, and the proposed activities included in SEP number 9 should not have any negative effects on the safety and general welfare of the public and our surrounding residential neighborhoods.
Is Fair Board putting this on also?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Pride in Your Ride special event permit as presented.
And I will second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Scott, second by Mr. Kohler, to approve the special event permit number 9, Pride in Your Ride Truck Show. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Kohler?
Yes.
Mr. Dickey?
Yes.
Mr. Costello? Mr. Deitch?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Schoenfeld?
Yes.
Mr. Schwab?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 with one abstention. Thank you, Mr. Obi, for coming in. Appreciate you. Next order of business will be the Step Up TLP Special Permit 84.
No, I'm
And then Mrs. Scott will be leaving the days.
This is a site plan approval request for Step Up TLP LLC for the property located at 101, 103, 105 Morgan Trails Court. And Kathy mentioned to me right before the public hearing, she's got an updated landscape plan that has a little more detail she'd like to hand out to you. She just brought in this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Mrs. Pritchett, the only The only change in the diagram is the detail on the plantings that you're proposing,
And
right?
change the tree and then put more detail of the flower box.
Okay. As far as conditions are concerned, are we able to, is the definition transitional living facility going to require the on-site resident manager, or is that something we can include in conditions?
I think it would, if that was something you wanted to require, it would probably benefit to have it included as a condition in the conditional use permit.
And that's the
So it's
arrangement you
clear
have
and it was unambiguous.
presently?
Yes. That's for the contract. I
Okay.
have to have that.
And you're comfortable with that condition?
Absolutely. I wouldn't personally do it any other way.
Are there other conditions that any of the rest of you are concerned with?
That's it.
All right, well then, I would
Go ahead and make the motion.
like to make a motion that we recommend approval of the conditional use permit for step-up TLP.
Hang on, we're on the site
We're on
plan
the site
first.
plan.
I'm sorry. Oh, well then,
We'll come back to
we'll
the
come
site.
back to that, okay. All right, well then, I'm going to make the motion that we approve, recommend approval of the site plan
And I'll
for
second.
step-up TLP.
So we have a motion by Mr. Costello, second by Mr. Deitch to approve the step-up site plan dash 84. Are there any questions or comments? Mr. Hampton, do you have one?
No.
Oh. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Roll call vote?
Mr. Dickey?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Deitch?
Yes.
Abstain. Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Schoenfeld?
Yes.
Mr. Schwab?
Yes.
Mr. Kohler?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 with one abstention. Next order of business would be the conditional use permit dash 38 for the step-up program.
And your arrangement is for each of the individual units, 101, 103, and 105, to have no more than, right now, how many do you have per unit? 3 or 4?
4 would be the maximum.
4 max. And then in the unit that you reside in, there are no actual service receiving tenants?
No, just the office. The office for the program is in the basement of the unit that we live in.
Okay. Then I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of the step-up TLP conditional use permit with the conditions that no more than 4 guests, residents, reside in any single unit, and that 1 unit be occupied by the management staff of the facility.
Second.
And to clarify, to occupy as residents, the management staff.
Second.
All right.
We have a motion by Mr. Costello, second by Mr. Dickey, to approve the conditional use permit for the step-up TLP with the conditions that Mr. Costello talked about. Maximum residence and on-site representation by the management. Any other questions or comments to anyone? Roll call vote?
Mr. Costello?
Yes?
Mr. Deitch?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Schoenfeld?
Yes.
Mr. Schwab?
Yes.
Mr. Kohler?
Yes.
Mr. Dickey?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 with one abstention. Thank you, Ms. Pritchard.
Thank you.
Next order of business will be amendment to section 405.050, definitions and interpretation, which was tabled at our last marathon.
So, yeah, I was told that this was the longest meeting because I was here, so I guess it was good to be back.
It was. We missed
I
it.
appreciate it. So, Jack and I mulled over what we talked about last time when we came up with this concept of this vacational or recreational vehicle layover stop. If I can read it quickly. A parcel of land consisting of at least 1 1/2 acre where no more than 4 vacational or recreational vehicles are permitted to park at any time. A vacational or recreational vehicle may be parked at a layover stop temporarily for a period of not more than 96 hours per parking occurrence. A parking occurrence shall begin when a vacation or recreational vehicle first parks at a layover stop and shall run continuously from the initial time of the parking occurrence, even though the vacation or recreational vehicle may be parked intermittently during the time duration. All vacation or recreational vehicles located on a vacation or recreational vehicle layover stop are required to be fully licensed and on its wheels, or the vacation or recreational vehicle's jacking system may be attached to the site by quick disconnect type utilities and security devices only, with no permanently attached additions. Parking of vacation or recreational vehicles at a layover stop must comply with all other regulations of the City of Warrenton City Code. So what I tried to do here at the last sentence was kind of address the concerns about connecting to sewer, which now I understand is almost impossible to just connect to a sewer. But connecting to a sewer, electrical, water, they have to comply with the city codes regarding the backflow devices, and really try to get everything in there that we need, that we talked of, kind of this transition between, we're going to leave our definition alone and how we handle residential. Sounded like let's just leave that alone and let's go with the system we've done, it's worked. Create this for the recreational vehicle layover stop as kind of an intermittent one that's for or less kind of what the Elks, or really what the Elks want. And then really we have our other definition for the parks. So we created this definition to go into the code, and then then I think there's another section, Jack, isn't there, about
The change of Appendix A.
change to Appendix A to you guys in the C3, which I assume is the only place you want to allow right now. Do you want to allow it to be permitted or conditional? Which I'm assuming are the two options we have. Sorry, Scott, it doesn't address your neighbor's backyard.
My thing was, are you comfortable with it not addressing charging a fee to?
For the permit?
No, just to completely avoid somebody having, I know that 1.5 acres is a lot for 4 vehicles, but just so nobody could charge a fee to make a business out of the vehicle layover stop.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think about that, and I would ask Don, do you have an issue if we add a provision, no fee?
I think they accept donations, right?
Right.
Currently, the way we do it, and if I was to go to another lodge, it's a donation thing. No, there's no set fee, there's no $20 or
That's easy to
$30 a night fee to park on our
Yeah, we
facility.
discussed that, and I just didn't add that. So we can add in here, no fee can be charged, very simply, if you like that. I think that also kind of narrows it down, but is general enough. So I think that's easy to put in. I think the other question then is, really the grid is, I think, one of the bigger questions about it is, what do we do with the grid? If you're okay with the definition. So Jack, let's put in that no fee can be charged for, no fee can be charged for
Not
a
yet. That'll be the next question.
parking occurrence, since we defined that. And I would put that in, just I'd make it the last sentence.
So the first order of business will be to entertain a motion to accept the amendment to section 405.050, just the definition and interpretation, correct?
Yes. With the change for no
With the
fee.
change that Mr. Schoenfeld said, that no fee will be charged.
Are they going to be able to plug into electric?
Well, we'll address that under the other provisions of the code. You know, under that last sentence, you know, Jeff.
Because right now they can't.
Why?
It's part of the existing code.
Says they can't? Well, let's look at that under the
Okay.
building code.
Okay. Just make sure we hit it squared.
Because I think it would be better to address that under the electric, you know what I'm saying? And then say for this type of thing, and then not do that under zoning, so.
Not a problem.
Sorry.
That's fine. Entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept that language with the one change that there not be a fee charged.
Second?
A motion by Mr. Schoenfeld, second by Mr. Costello, to accept the amendment to section 405.050 definition and interpretation, which was tabled at our last meeting with the new language added on that there's no fee charged for the service. Any other questions or comments?
Are you still abstaining, Teresa?
Yes, this one and the next one.
I will be as well.
Seriously?
Roll call vote?
Mr. Deitch?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Schoenfeld?
Yes.
Mr. Schwab?
Yes.
Mr. Fuller abstained. Mr. Dickey?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0 with 2 abstentions. Next order of business will be the amendment to Appendix A, which was also tabled at our last P and Z.
Abstaining on one too, right?
This is where we're adding RV layover stop to the zoning grid, and whether or not you want to make it as permitted use or a conditional use is up for discussion.
I think I spoke with Don briefly Mr. Horner briefly from the Elks Lodge, and I don't know if you want to make any comments, Mr. Horner, regarding your position on the permitted or conditional.
You know, do I need to step up there?
Yes, please, thank you.
And Mr. Horner, if you can state your name when you go up there.
I'm Don Horner, I'm representing the Warrenton Elks Lodge on this issue. Our opinion is, you know, our big thing, and I've stated this in previous 2 meetings, is just that we want to be able to allow visiting elks as they're passing through, going across country, or they may be coming to the St. Louis area for an activity or something, someplace to park. We don't really have a preference whether it's conditional or permitted. The amendments that have been submitted and just approved on there are just fine with us, because we usually don't have over 2 or 3 units, and most of the time over a couple days. And so it's a temporary, as you so stated in the thing, it's a layover permit, is basically what it is. Nobody's coming here to camp for a week or a 2-week vacation or any of that stuff. So we just want to be able to accommodate our fellow elk members and their guests, because occasionally you have an elk member coming and they'll have a friend with them behind them, but they are responsible for the guests on all activities. And so we like to welcome them. Most of them, when they come into town, they say, where's a good place to eat? And so we funnel them to the Applebee's or the Brewski's or Hideout or Denny's or any of the other multiple eating spots in town and try to accommodate them. So we're really indifferent as whether what you find them conditional or permitted. Quite frankly, we'd like to make it as easy on ourselves as possible and most cost effective, because it's a donation thing if they stay. If they don't want to pay us anything, that's fine, and most people will chip in a little bit just to cover the electric, because that's all they're getting out of us, is just plug in so they don't have to run their batteries down or run a generator all night. So,
Thank you, Mr. Horner. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Horner? Thank you, sir.
thank you.
What's the thoughts?
Well, it would seem to me that we put most of the conditions in the actual definitions. You know, maybe there's another condition that we didn't conceive of that the Board of Aldermen would like to put in place, but they could probably do that within the definition as well.
It's a pretty narrowly defined use.
Right. So the only question I would have on conditional use would be if there was another C3 property somewhere down the line that was 1.5 acres, that this would come into play, that a condition might be beneficial for. And, but as I stated in the previous meeting, I was not comfortable with making it a C3 wide conditional use for the true camping, and I'm much more comfortable with this narrow definition because it fits everything the officer are asking for. So I can live with permitted. It gives them the opportunity to move forward and not have to come back at yet another meeting for more conditions, for one more blessing. I think they've been pretty patient.
Very well stated. Entertain a motion that...
I'll make a motion that we approve the addition to the grid of recreational vehicle layover parking as permitted in the C3 zone.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Casella, second by Mr. Dietz to approve the amendment to Appendix A to make it permitted in C3 for the RV layover stop under the lodging section. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Schoenfeld?
Yes.
Mr. Schwab?
Yes.
Mr. Dickey?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Deach?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0 with 2 abstentions. Thank you, Mr. Horner, for your patience and
Thank
all
you
your help
for-
you've given us.
For working with us on this.
You're
We
sure
really
welcome.
appreciate it.
You're sure welcome. Last order of business on the agenda tonight will be the discussion regarding existing sign code.
On April the 4th, I received a request from Planning and Zoning Commissioner Costello to place on tonight's agenda discussion regarding Section 425.090, standards for signs. And I have attached his email to give you some of the specific items he'd like to discuss.
Well, my understanding is that if we are going to actually consider the suggestions that I've proposed, that it actually would have to be, that the board would have to agree to have it on the agenda. We can't actually act on it in this meeting. But there are a couple things that have come to light in the last few months that I think our code doesn't address. And so rather than belabor the point and carry on the discussion tonight and make our meeting longer, what I'm simply asking is whether or not the commission would be willing to put these items on the agenda for the next meeting, so they might be an item that can be acted upon and sent to the Board of Aldermen.
With your recommendation, I can run the public hearings and put it on the official agenda.
And you're just looking at the changes in that are red?
Those are, Mr. Graville's the attorney, but those are language changes that I would suggest might conform, number one, to some existing circumstances. We've got situations that exist right now which violate those sections of code as they're currently written. And there are, it's come to light because there's similar requests for the same consideration, and now that city staff is aware that this code is written the way it is, they can't approve it for other businesses. They'd have to go through variance request. And it seems to me that some of the, particularly the height limitations on pedestrian areas at 10 feet seems somewhat arbitrary. I can see it for vehicle traffic areas, but for pedestrian traffic areas, it doesn't make sense. It would also probably clean up the issue that we had when or if we have another situation in the future where the Historical Society had to come before us for a variance to place the sign that they wanted to, because it was potentially a pedestrian area sign. So those are things that have come to light. And then the other issue that I put on is not in red, is I noticed that there are stickers all over town, little yellow stickers on temporary signs all over town. And even on temporary signs at C-stores that are in the parking lots of C-stores advertising soda on sale and things like that. So my understanding is that city staff is taking the time to go around to put stickers on signs to essentially to mark them, to understand how long they've been in place so that they can be removed before the temporary sign time limit expires. And I just think that seems a huge waste of manpower. And so I think we ought to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, since I've been representing the city, I think we've overhauled our sign code at least 4 times. And then the last time we overhauled it, we then gutted it, taking out all the content regulations. So it's always good to review it after a period of time because, you know, the enforcement, we've had some issues with the enforcement and keeping track of it where I will tell you, some city staff may be of the opinion that we should regulate signs at all. But trying to figure out a way to enforce these things, and then of course every time we have an enforcement issue we get a complaint is, well, everybody else is doing it, so trying to enforce it uniformly. So I think we could bring a lot of experience after our last kind of change with the taking out the content regulations that in some ways simplified things, but then also, you know, put everybody on a level playing field where it became, enforcement became 20 fingers here and there to kind of say, what do we want to do? How do we want to do it? How do you guys want us to deal with this?
So you'll put that on the next meeting?
If you guys want to vote to
If you
approve
guys
this
vote
discussion.
to recommend it, yes, sir.
I'll make a motion that we put the sign code discussion on the June's planning and zoning agenda.
With the promise that you'll be here?
No, I did not say that.
Whoa, that
I'll
got a-
second it if he's coming.
We have a motion.
Before we second that motion,
I haven't seconded it for a long time. That was a good
Gotta
time.
have a
Jack,
little fun, you know, with that.
before that motion is second, could you solicit some input from city employees who are tasked with the job of monitoring the signs and see how much time is involved in that?
There's a big difference between employee to employee of how much time it takes. I can tell you that
Okay.
very factually. Motivation has a lot to do with the time period
Right.
for getting it completed.
Okay.
Any other questions? We have a motion by Mr. Kohler, second by Mr. Schwab, to allow the discussion regarding the existing sign code to be placed on the agenda for the next planning and zoning meeting. Any questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Schoenfeld?
Yes.
Mr. Schwab?
Yes.
Mr. Kohler?
Yes.
Mr. Dickey?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Deitch?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes. Motion passes 8-0 with no abstentions. And this time we'll close the meeting, official meeting, and open it up to Mr. Hamp for any notes.
I do have a zone change request, will be on next month's meeting. So far, that's the only thing I have,
Does anyone else
besides the
have,
sign code.
does anyone else have anything for the good of the group tonight? Now, or entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mrs. Scott?
Second.
Second by Mr. Deitch. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Have a great day, or a great evening.